now, and we have to have a conversation real quick. The conversation that we need to have real quick is concerning Kanye West because I did a show talking about Kanye. So let me just get rid of this so I can really get into it and dig into this a bit. Because we're going to talk about identity politics right now. And this is what it all comes down to. This is the whole purpose for wearing the White Lives Matter shirts. Because if we were to really break it down, when did White Lives Matter even come on the scene? When was this term first heard? Well, it was formed in 2013, but we didn't really start hearing this term Black Lives Matter until the increase in police brutality in the United States. So I'll say from about 2018 up to this point, there's been a real household name made of Black Lives Matter. And so when Black Lives Matter first came out, we were in high protest about different issues. And so during these issues, whenever we heard that term, Black Lives Matter, we all automatically jumped on the boat, no questions asked, and everybody took that concept and that banner and they ran with Black Lives Matter, right? Am I not right? So many people have adopted that term, Black Lives Matter, and they use it as a weapon against anything that they see as being prejudiced and being wrong. So I'll say this. Fast forward to now, and we see that many people have fallen away from the BLM movement because of their own personal convictions, their own personal beliefs. And as they begin to find out more about BLM, they begin to find out that it was created by women from the LGBT community. And so there's a lot of people who are not in agreement with the LGBTQ movement. And so they started to slowly distance themselves from BLM. Well, then you have those people who say, well, now we're finding out that they've taken a lot of money and they used that money to buy themselves nice houses and mansions and cars and trips and different things like that. This is not what the movement is about. And so then people began to fall away from BLM title and what Black Lives Matter represents as an organization. And so all because of identity politics, these events have taken place. We jumped on board because it had something to do with us in our lives, and it was a good message to put out there. But at the same time, whenever we began to realize that it didn't just encompass Black people, that more people was involved in that BLM movement, a lot of people wasn't for that because it didn't cover their identity politics. You get what I'm saying? And so when you see a Kanye West and you see a Candace Owens wearing a White Lives Matter shirt, what did we instantly do? We instantly rejected it. We instantly got angry. We instantly became offended because of the identity politics involved. We as Black people have been through so much and all of these different points that we threw out there as to why we should be angry that he wore a White Lives Matter shirt. As much stuff as Black people been through and this and that, well, if that's the case, then why did you allow something like your beliefs about sexuality to get you to fall away from the Black Lives Matter movement? Why did you allow something like some of the people in there who are misappropriating funds to get you to fall away from the Black Lives Matter movement? Because it's bigger than that, right? The point that we're looking for and what we're trying to get accomplished is far bigger than that, right? If you go and you look at the demands of the Black Lives Matter movement, it'll specifically tell you that it wants justice from those conservative members who had involvement in January the 6th. It'll tell you that they want any of the Donald Trump administration who had anything to do with the brutality on that day needs to be brought to justice. It also encompasses defunding the police departments. And when they talk about defunding the police departments, that means that those police departments don't need MRAPs. They don't need military grade weaponry to deal with your typical street gang members. So, you have the higher levels of law enforcement who have to deal with these cartels and stuff. I understand they need firepower. They're special units. They may need special stuff. But your average everyday cop does not need an M4 with a grenade launcher on it. And so there's different nuances to these identity politics that we always seem to fall for, because we bought that whole concept of Black Lives Matter hook, line, and sinker until we started to realize that there were some inconsistencies and some things that didn't hold true to what the movement that we were pushing was about. And so now everybody's at odds and they're talking about, BLM this, BLM that. I don't support it. I do support it. And now that whole movement has stopped completely because of people's identity politics. But as soon as you heard the term white lives matter, everybody lost their damn mind. What? He's saying white lives matter. He's saying this and well, they do. I mean, let's be honest. Every life matter, but if you say that, then you become demonized. You instantly get demonized for saying anything contrary to what Black people want in their identity politics. But it's okay to talk about everybody else's identity politics. So what if we was to make a shirt and we was to take all of the adjectives off the table and we was to say lives matter? If I walked outside with a shirt that said lives matter, just lives, period, who would be offended? Who would take issue with that? I guarantee you that there's some people who would take issue with my shirt saying lives matter. They would say, oh, well, he's taking away from the Black plight. He's dismissing what's going on with the Black people by saying that lives matter. No, I'm just stating that all human lives matter, period. Because there's some Black people out there that are getting killed and they are connected to some white lives. And those lives are affected immensely by the death of that Black person because we don't understand the dynamics of relationships within this country. We think that Black issues only affect Black people, white issues only affect white people. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie that people buy into whenever they come to this country, especially if they're not from here. But that's absolutely not true. There's so many white people that are connected to my life. There's so many Black people that are connected to the life of some white people. And no matter who dies, it's going to have an adverse effect on all cultures, on all ethnic groups, and on us as a human race as a whole. And so to continue to fall for these identity politics and turn around and criticize somebody else for doing the same exact thing that we're doing is hypocrisy at the highest level. And now I get what Kanye was trying to do. I get what Kanye is saying. He's exposing the hypocrisy that we always use as a crutch whenever we want to try to get over or whenever we don't want to explain ourselves. But, it has to be addressed. It has to be brought to the light. No longer can we continue to straddle the fence because nobody's going to take us seriously if our arguments don't make sense and don't have logic. If we just jump on things just because it's Black, just because it's in support of Black people, who do you expect to get behind that? And yeah, we're not looking for validation from other people, but you understand that we live in a nation to where we're going to have to coexist with everybody else, right? That means that we're going to have to do business deals with everybody else, right? That means that we're going to have to be able to network and all of these different things with other people, right? So if everything is black this, black that, black this, black that, nobody's going to want to back you whenever you're pushing them down in order for you to get up. You don't have to. That's something that I've stated many times before. Any group that feel like they has to push somebody down in order to uplift themselves, you're not worthy of your cause. And so this is a checks and balances on the people who really claim that they're for the betterment of black people. If you're for the betterment of black people, then you're gonna be all for us having to get this correction just as much as you're for us reaping benefits like reparations and different things like that. You're gonna be all for us having to get ourselves in order and get our stuff together just as much as you are for us being able to get these jobs and different things like that. So you want to reap the benefits, but you don't want to have to do none of the work that we need to do as a people, which is very evident. And that's not saying that we're bad people. That's saying that we're damaged people who need to be worked on and who need to better ourselves. But anytime somebody speaks on that, you want to start singing the woe is me and start crying the old Negro spirituals. No, we got work we got to do within ourselves to be worthy of what we're called to do and the position that we're called to be in. We're not just going to be in there any kind of way, because if that's the case, we're no better than the ones here who are getting the preferential treatment and the privilege that we always complain about. So, yeah, we in the dungeon right now. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's grimy in the dungeon. And that's necessary because this is where we have to talk out all of those dirty things that we don't want to talk about. All of those good images that we put out in front of the public, that ain't what we talk about down here in the dungeon. Down here in the dungeon is where we get into the real of it. You see what's behind me. I got a country in distress. I got the Native Americans right here who still haven't been done right in this country that was theirs. And so when we talk in the dungeon, we talk about the things that black people don't want to talk about, white people don't want to talk about. Don't nobody want to talk about this stuff because it's hard. It's hard to admit that you're wrong. It's hard to admit that you have some responsibility in this. It's hard to admit that you're not all that in a bag of chips. But it's the truth, and it needs to be said. And so if nobody else is going to say it, I'm going to say it. We need to get our stuff together, y'all. Black folks. If Black lives really mattered, then we would show the best quality of Black lives. If Black lives really mattered, then we wouldn't highlight all the lowest living of Black lives. Did that make sense to you? Because that's why Bill Cosby became so famous, because he showed Black lives in a whole different narrative. He brought about Black lives as regular people doing regular things in this country that is the bare minimum that we should be doing. It shouldn't be a phenomenon to see a Black doctor and a Black lawyer. It shouldn't be a phenomenon to see a Black family in upscale neighborhoods just flourishing and growing. That shouldn't be a phenomenon, but it became one because we bought into the lower guttural stereotypes that was planted about us. We would never buy into the concept of us being great, of us being elite, of us operating in excellence. But we will always buy into that lower that lower image of us as a people. So how about us stop buying into this lower image of us as a people, and we start to buy into us at that elite, as that excellent, as that great, all of the things that we know we're capable of and we demonstrate on a regular basis. So it's time out. We can't have it both ways. We can't sit there and talk junk about everybody else, and then when somebody point out some stuff about us that is obviously the truth, now all of a sudden we calling them a racist and we calling them against the movement and all of this. No, we got to get our stuff together. We're not going to go into a position to where Yahweh's going to bless us with plenty if we're not able to handle it. He's not going to cast his pearls to the swine. And a lot of us are still swine and expecting pearls to get cast upon us. So I just want to say, man, now I understand what Kanye's point was. I'm not as mad at Kanye as I was. The visual was shocking. The visual was something that took people back. But that's what Kanye always does. He's a provocative person. And at first I was just like everybody else. You know, Kanye is on some bull. Kanye is on this and that, which he is a lot of the times. But now I understand what point he was trying to drive home to us. We always jump on identity politics. If it says black something and we think it's uplifting us and exalting us over everybody else, we'll jump on it in a minute. No questions asked. Not knowing who started it, who's running it, not knowing what their policies and procedures is, none of that. We'll just jump on it because it identifies with us. A lot of people voted for Barack Obama because he was black. That was it. And I'm so glad that the Boondocks did the episode that they did about Obama, because it really shed a light on that. Because a lot of black people say, hey, I'm just voting for him because he's black. I'm voting for him because he's going to do this. And they had no idea what his policies were. They had no idea that he was going to bail out the banks. They had no idea of the things that he was going to come in and usher in, and the executive orders that he was going to sign that went against what America was supposedly founded on. They didn't know. They didn't care. He was black. He had an opportunity to win. We had an opportunity to brag about having a black president, so a lot of people was for it. And when he got in office and he didn't start doing all of the things that black people thought he was going to do, you had a great falling away of those black people on his next election. It was a little bit harder to beat Mitt Romney. So, man, get our minds together, get our lives together, get yourself together, because the level that we are trying to aspire to, we have not built ourselves up mentally, physically, emotionally to be able to handle. So if they were to give us the proverbial 40 acres and a mule, we would not be in a position to maximize what we could get out of it in the first place, because we haven't worked on ourselves none. Real talk. So I'm just saying, man, let's get past this slave mentality and the slave mindset that we continue to operate in, and claiming that we woke, swearing that we woke. If you so woke, then you will keep your eyes open and you will see what people are saying whenever they bring messages to us like this. And I'm gonna be 100%. I didn't get it at first, but now it's starting to become clear to me what Kanye was talking about. And the way that he brings things about, he has to in order to get our attention, because if he brings it any other way, he'll fall to the wayside just like everybody else who tries to do something positive for our people. And you see it all the time on here. This video maybe will get 20, maybe you'll get 20 views in the next month, because it's on something positive. It ain't something that's feeding your itching ears and your itching eyes and It's not something that's stimulating that lower guttural chakra that everybody loves to operate from, but then claim that they're so high in sedity. So be real about who you are. Be real about what you are and what you get and what you're going to deserve in life. Do Black Lives Matter? White Lives Matter? Asian Lives Matter? Czechoslovakian Lives Matter? Or do lives matter, period? Yo, this is your boy D-Mac, man. I think I'm out of here. You know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.